Welcome back to my kitchen. It's a beautiful October day here in South Dakota, and I thought I'd share with you a bit of what we have going on this week. It's the last day of October, and for our household anyway, we are officially entering the holiday season. Now, we really like turkey, so as soon as they're available, we roast one up, which is exactly what we did last week. This week I'm going to cook up some more turkey and we'll begin preparing some of the components for our Thanksgiving Day dinner, so that by the time Thanksgiving week arrives, I will have turkey broth and leg quarters and sauteed vegetables for the stuffing all in the freezer, and all of the associated prep work and dishes done, which is a huge time saver on Thanksgiving Day. Now I have two 20-pound turkeys that I'm going to deconstruct today. I'll roast the breasts and make pot pies and tetrazzini out of 3 of them, and I'll reserve one of the breasts for sandwiches. I'll make broth out of the carcasses, some of which I'll use in those pot pies and the tetrazzini. The rest I'll put in the freezer, and we'll be using those for the stuffing and gravy and things of that nature. I'll also freeze the turkey legs, and I plan to smoke them after the holidays. And then we like having extra thigh meat to roast on Thanksgiving Day, so I'll stockpile a few of those in the freezer as well. Now I like to deconstruct the turkey because it cooks up faster, and the white meats and the dark meats are both equally moist and succulent. When you look at turkeys these days, they are clearly bred to increase the white meat, and just the shape alone makes it very difficult to get the dark meat done without overcooking the white meat. And I like to cook my white meat to about 160 degrees, and the dark meat to about 170 degrees. So that alone creates it's difficult to get them both done at the same time and at the right temperature. So being deconstructed allows me to take the white meat out and let the dark meat continue cooking, or vice versa, whichever is happening at the time. Another added benefit is it doesn't take nearly as much oven space when you're cooking a deconstructed turkey versus a whole bird. And that oven space on Thanksgiving Day is pretty premium, so that's a nice benefit as well. Now, I'm no authority on deconstructing a turkey, and there's certainly more than one way you can do it, but I'll show you how I do it just in case I do something that you find helpful. So the tools I'm going to be using are 2 medium-sized chef knives, and I use a set of poultry shears. If you're not comfortable with your knife skills, you might want to pick up a pair of food-grade cut gloves. The other thing, before I begin my kitchen work, I make sure all of my equipment and my work surfaces and hands, etc., are clean and sanitized. This step seems so obvious, and I hesitate to mention it because I'm sure you already know this. And so if I fail to mention this basic sanitary steps in videos and whatnot, please know that I do practice them each time I'm in the kitchen. So before I get these turkeys ready and show you how I'm going to deconstruct them, I've got 12 pounds of butter here. Now I'm going to make ghee, and it takes a little while, so I'll go ahead and just pop these in the oven, and I'll show you how I do it. Of course, again, there's more than one way to do it, but this is how I make my ghee. So I'll get those in the oven, and I'll get these turkeys unpackaged, and we'll start deconstructing them. Okay, so the turkey is unpackaged and ready to deconstruct. The first thing I did was stuff the cavity with a wad of paper towels, and that just soaks up some of the liquid and keeps my work surface a little safer as I'm deconstructing the turkey. Then I take the wings and I tuck them behind the turkey, and it stabilizes it and keeps it from rocking while I'm cutting. And I'm going to take the thigh and the leg off in one piece, and that's the first thing I'm going to do. So the first step is to loosen this skin. I'm not actually cutting any meat at this point. I'm just loosening the skin. I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay. Next step is I'm going to take my knife and angle it toward this backbone. This is the backbone. I'm going to angle my knife. And as I pull back, well, I'm angling the knife toward the backbone. And as I pull back, it's just going to gently follow that backbone. And I'm loosening that meat. And I will come in from this side and loosen that skin. I'm going to go ahead and do it on this side. Okay, the next thing you're doing is dislocating the thigh bone from the backbone. And you're going to hear a pop when you do that. And then, now, the reason I have two knives available for me is because obviously I'm all over this turkey with my hands and things get a little slippery. So if my knife gets too slippery, I can change it out for the other one that's sitting here. Now if I wiggle this, I can see that's where that joint is, and that's where I'm going to be able to cut. And now I'm actually taking the thigh off of the backbone. And here we have one thigh and leg. Okay, I've already popped that joint. I can see it. It's just a matter of repeating the process. Okay. Gotta clean up my work surface just a little so it's not so slippery. Okay, now at this point you could take the wings off and you could cut with your poultry shears. You could cut these bones and take your turkey breast bone in and roast it. I like to go ahead and debone it at this point. Okay, so the breastbone right here, you can feel this. And I'm going to take my knife and I'll be angling it toward that breastbone just a little bit as I'm cutting. And then I take small little bits, and as I pull my knife towards me, it will follow that bone. So first step is cut through the skin. I can feel that bone right here. I'm angling the knife just a little bit. Just getting it started here. Try to keep my arm out of the way so you can actually see. Don't be in a hurry. This just takes a little bit of finessing. Okay, now I'm going to come in at this point, and right above the wing, I'm just going to cut right in there. Okay. Now, as I bring my knife down, I just let it slide along that bone. That's the wishbone right there. And off comes that turkey breast. Got a little skin hanging on, but okay. Turkey breast number one. I'm going to move down here a little. Okay. Angling the knife toward that breastbone. Letting it slide. turkey breast number 2. Okay, now we're going to take the wings off, and you do that much the same way as we separated the thigh from the backbone. We're going to cut through the flesh here so I can see the joint, where it's working, and where I know I can get my knife through. So wiggle that bone. Okay, I'm going to cut through this meat so I can see the joint that's moving right there. I know I can get my knife through that joint. Okay, now we have the carcass that's left. And we're going to use the poultry shears for the majority of this. Work beautifully. Cut through both sides, and I like to do this so that it fits in my roasting pan better when I make the broth. Now there's some joints up here we need to dislocate, so we'll just let those pop, and I can see there's one joint I can cut through. I actually think that this is probably the hardest part for me, is finding that little slot through those joints there is a little tricky. But just stay with it, you'll get it. Okay, there we go. I'll rinse these cavities out and then season and roast to get it prepared for the roaster to make broth. There you have it. 2 turkeys deconstructed. Now I've always been curious about how much of the turkey am I actually roasting for Thanksgiving dinner, and how much is carcass and I'm using for the broth, which I find great value in the broth, don't get me wrong, but I'm curious. So we're going to weigh this up and see how much this cost us per pound. So I broke it down. I've deconstructed the turkeys into the thigh meat and the leg meat, the boneless breasts, the carcass, and the other items that I deem worthy of making a nice rich broth. And we have the bowl of totally unusable and the bowl of bagged items. So let's break it down and see what this costs per pound. So the legs and thighs again was 9.6 pounds. And the boneless breasts was 10.6 pounds, which is approximately 20 pounds, which is almost exactly half of what I purchased in total weight. So those are the items that would likely be consumed on your turkey menu, and that would come out to $2.60 per pound. Of course, we have these other items that are worthy of making a wonderful rich broth for your gravy, for your stuffing, for pot pies, for that wonderful turkey noodle soup. So there is great value in that. And that weighed 14 pounds, 14.1 pounds. The bowl of totally unusable items was 1.45 pounds. And the bagged items is 3/4 of a pound. So if you do the math, you'll notice that there's 4 pounds that aren't accounted for, which is the packaging that the turkeys came in, and then the water weight that you lose when you have thawed that turkey and open it up. You notice a lot of water is discarded, and that apparently makes up that 4-pound difference. So yes, if you suspected that half of that turkey that you're purchasing won't be actually consumed on Turkey Day, you're correct.